Welcome back. I think today is going to see some decent progress. We've got the boiler here now, and I'm just trying to get all the prep done for that. So it's been a late couple of nights trying to get bits done after work. This is how we're looking now. New door. So we've got the floorboards all here now, but I've stacked them on one side whilst I'm trying to work, because I'm trying to still sort of plumbing out in here. But Jason, our installer, is coming, so he's going to look over what I've done and let me know of anything else. I was getting this bit of stud work in last night, but it got to, I don't know, 9-10 o'clock, and I was having to do everything so quietly. It was just so much slower doing it all by hand. So I've kind of held off for now, and I'll finish it off this morning. So what I need to do is insulate between these, vapor barrier, then I'm going to put a plywood layer before our plasterboard, and the plywood layer is really just for pipe clips and, you know, anything. Obviously the boiler itself will hang on the stud work, but things like pipe clips, other brackets and bits and bobs, at least we can just, you know, go where we need to, and it just gives it a bit of rigidity. Now, because between the joists I've got loads of insulation to go in and underfloor heating, I'm going to hold off. That's why I've pulled all the boards to one side, but I will be laying them down in a minute for a temporary solution, so we've got somewhere to work on. But you can see down here I've just put a strip between the last two joists of the same depth floorboard material, just so I can get this stud wall on something, and then we'll start our actual floor from that flat, and that's run true to the joist, so it's nice and square. It's kind of squared off the walls and given us a good start to pull all of our floorboards from. The very last stud here I've taken out and squared off the outside render, so it's flush, and then we'll just run a door lining up to the new frame, which will be on the outside. Now, in true Tim style, we're doing this backwards. So the ceiling, or sorry, the roof needs to come off still. The new roof will be a little bit higher, it'll be flatter, so I haven't been able to go as high as I need to with this stud work. So we'll actually end up having to extend the stud work above this. For now it's fine, the boiler's not going to be above the top of this one. But what I will do is I will carry our plasterboard by about 20mm above this, and same with the plywood as well. And that means that when the next wall goes in, I can kind of fix down into the stud, but I can also attach it to make sure everything carries on a nice kind of flat plane all the way to the ceiling, which will just be a little bit above where the corrugated sheet is now. Okay, time to start insulating our stud wall. Now, for the rest of the build, I'll go into it in more detail, but we're going to be using around 70-75mm of PIR insulation between our studs, and then over the top of the stud work we'll put 25mm sheets, and that gives a thermal break everywhere so that the stud work doesn't come all the way through to the plasterboard. And I did that in the loft conversion. We did 100mm between the rafters and studs and 50mm, but that's a bit overkill for down here. So that meets the values we need anyway for building regulations, and it exceeds them really. So for this one, it's slightly different. So what I'm going to do is use 100mm, because that's all I've got. I've got some offcuts from the loft conversion. Dad dropped over half a sheet. They're a little bit scored and battered, so we'll have to make sure we tape up any breaks to give our vapor barrier a chance. So for this one, I'm not going to go over the studs. What I'm going to do is put 100mm between, which should stick out the back of them a little bit, but it'll be fine. Then I'm going to ply over the whole lot. Like I said earlier, that will give us a good anchoring for any pipe clips and things like that. And then our plasterboard. It's pretty good actually. Now with these, there's a good and a bad way to cut insulation like this. And if you check out the video, I'll try and remember to put it at the end of this one, but if not, just search for cutting insulation boards on our channel, and I did a whole short video on really good ways of scoring and marking and then scribing to different stud work. I also haven't put any noggins between our studs here because I know I've got that sheet of ply going over. Otherwise I'd be tempted to put in one halfway up. Right, that's pretty much all the insulation in. You'll notice the odd one out here. This is 100mm PIR, but it's got like some sort of tar paper on it. It came on as a bulk pallet, but I think it's for roofing applications. But the actual insulation properties are the same. We're not gaining massive amounts from the silver because there's no air gap anyway. So this is, I can only imagine, vapor impermeable. So I'm just patching up any of the scuffs where the foil is broken. This is real kind of fussy belts and braces stuff, but just in case, it's good to seal it all up. Now you could just put a polythene vapor barrier, vapor check layer on here. I've got a roll somewhere back the other end, but I had a load of this silver foil left over from the loft conversion, so I've just used that and I've spanned it over the studs, and that just carries on, because this is a vapor barrier, the silver itself. So there's no point in putting a sheet over the whole lot. I just did a bit of work on the plumbing side of things. This whole situation here, basically from here across, is all underfloor heating. It's just a single zone, but there's a mixer and its own pump, things like that. We're going to rejig this whole system, but for now I don't really want to start taking the electrical parts out, the connections, because he might want to see how it's wired up. So if I start pulling them out, at the moment it's all labelled up nicely. So I've disconnected where it goes in the flow and return into the kitchen and cut off here. So I'm actually going to take it off the wall and just pivot it and hang it up until he gets here tomorrow. Which means we can now lose all this unistrut, clear this wall off completely. What do you think on that bit?
Why?
Because I haven't fixed it down.
Oh.
Just be careful.
Oh no, look, chickens!
What?
They might come in here.
The chicken? They're alright. Okay, so we've got a wall going there. What we need to do, we'll use this. We just need to make sure there's water for now. So we need to...
Yeah, because I can't wash my hands.
Can't wash your hands. So going outside, there's a grey pipe.
Yeah.
Can you get it? It's quite a long grey pipe.
Okay.
There's two out there. First bit cut, ready to go on. The other two pieces are going to be temporary. They're just basically whilst the install is going on. So I've got a nice neat background for the video. So I'm not too worried about those. I can get those up in the morning. This one I want to get on properly because this is where the boiler's going to hang. If I'd had time, I would have had this plastered or at least filled and painted. So the back of the boiler area was all neat and tidy. As it is, I should be able to still just go around, fill the screw holes and paint around it. It's not ideal. And it's one thing a pet hate. One thing I regret about doing the airing cupboard in the house, where we put in the new tank. I should have spent a day lining it all out and tidying it up before it went in, because at the moment you can't really get behind. As soon as you've got pipes going anywhere, it's just a nightmare to paint. I've only got 75mm drywall screws. That's what happens when you're 11 o'clock at night doing a job. Right, our main wall is done. Now we need to build a false wall here, false ceiling, bedtime. That's it, I'm done. We've got our permanent wall, our film studio floppy walls. This one we may have to take down anyway because it's just going to get a bit tight up there. But at least we've got a nice clean space. I still need to clear out the floor area, waterproof the door up a bit, just in case it's clear skies. But just in case, and then we'll be all set for a clear, fresh start in the morning with coffee. Before I go, I'll give you a quick look at that bit of plumbing that I did earlier. It's still not quite plumbed in. The dog thinks I'm crazy. So this is what I've managed to get done. So this is the kitchen waste coming through. I've put a scrap bit on there, but what we're going to do is run our ensuite 40mm down T in there. Carries on down. I've had to step it out just so it's away from the joist. I did actually, it's not a joist, it's completely bolted either side, it's just the bearer, but I did notch it out a little bit, but then decided against that, so I've actually taken it away from the wall, dropped it down. Then going uphill this way, goes up to an elbow and across. You can see it coming up there. That's where the sink and washing machine is going to go in the future. And then at this point it gets a little bit different. So because I'm feeding 3-4 rooms into down this 40mm, it's fine as a vertical, but when I was talking to Jason, we kind of figured that it wouldn't hurt to step it up to 50mm, which is more commercial type sizing than the domestic. But just for this last 2 meter run, I've done that in 50mm.